Ask somebody.
Yeah, tell us. Please tell us if the audio isn't.
If our mouths move with our words. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, we wouldn't
6.
we wouldn't want to have a delay between the image and the sound. So if you see a delay, please let us know. These are technical
We
issues.
can adjust it. It's so.
Yeah, we're
But you can't tell because it takes a while.
we're very tech savvy. No, not me. Not me. Yeah, audio is absolutely fine. Thank you. We just wanted to make sure also we're in sync. Okay. So
we're not in sync. I mean, that's a whole different story.
Okay, let's officially start this. Okay. Hello, everyone. Once again, I had to put these glasses, otherwise I can't read your comments. So this is Charles Como filling in.
For other important people.
As you may know, so Charles happens to be my partner in life and in crime and in family and in many ways. But let me give you a little bit of a background. He actually is an internet guy. That's his main background. Actually, he initially was a stockbroker, and he had difficulty sleeping at nights. He felt very badly. His conscience. Well,
I worked for Lehman Brothers. How's that?
That's he worked for Lehman Brothers back in his 20s.
The world economy down.
So that didn't feel very well. So he just dropped everything and then discovered that thing in the 90s, early 90s called internet. And at the time, nobody knew what the internet was. So he was like, oh man, I discovered this thing.
I didn't discover it. I found out
about it. Yeah. And he thought that was the thing that was going to democratize the world. That was the thing that was, going to bring everyone,
give everyone the ability to have a voice, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so he was one of the early Instagram guys.
Instagram? Jesus.
Oh my God, that was
an insult. My God.
He was one of the early...
Instagram wasn't around for 10 years later.
He was one of the first internet guys. He put up all of Hollywood online. I mean, not all of it, but most of it, starting with, I think, Capitol Records, Warner Brothers. What else, Charles? Personal websites.
A&M Records,
Mattel.
Mattel, Barbie, Hot Wheels, Fox Entertainment. Not prior. This is pre-Fox News. Fox Entertainment, the big 20th Century Fox, that kind of deal.
And also he, some really huge stars of Hollywood and musicians. That's why he was very close to musicians. He loves music, and he's he actually produces pretty good music when he does. I mean, he doesn't know music, but he's got...
What do you mean I don't know music?
I mean, you have a musical ear. It's not that you play an instrument. So anyway, in the beginning, he created the Underground Network. The Underground Network was a domain name that he grabbed in 1994. And if, believe it or not, what his aim was to have musicians on there perform.
And artists.
What?
And artists.
Musicians and artists perform. No,
not perform. Just use the internet to do stuff.
So this is my relationship with Charles. We never agree. But it's very productive.
We never agree? Sure we do. Wait a minute. No, hold on a second. See, in that statement, I'm actually disagreeing with you.
Exactly.
By saying that we agree.
Exactly.
It's kind of a weird...
Okay, so let's not make things complicated. Charles is very ahead of his time.
No.
Believe it or not, he was sitting in 1998 or 1999, right before the big internet bubble. He was sitting at a table with some really important guy. Can I name the guy?
Who? What do you mean talking about? What table? When? What? What are you about to talk about?
Weren't you in England? You hopped on a plane with some...
Oh, to go meet with Richard Branson?
Yeah. So he was sitting, and he was basically showcasing what later on was is what today is iTunes. So he was showcasing the exact same thing to Richard Branson and some other people, trying to tell everyone, hey, don't try to...
no, just saying that, listen, he owns Virgin Records, and digital music is going to potentially, the make future. Well, it's also going to make that Virgin Records stores like disappear.
He was right about that.
I wanted them to get involved with the digital music space.
At the time, everybody was trying to stop everyone from, doing digital music, like, because people were trying to download pieces and CDs, and at the time, and you were like, we can't. There's a point where we can't control that anymore. So how about we just monetize digitalization of music? So basically that was the idea, which was later iTunes.
Actually, and ultimately like Spotify. So he figured out a way to actually allow people to trade music over the internet for free.
Yes.
But actually a way that artists then get paid for every time that song is traded over the internet. So it's kind of like what Spotify is, but you actually wouldn't have to get a Spotify subscription. It would actually come out of your internet, what you're paying for your internet. A small portion of it would actually go towards artists, and we figured out that they could be completely compensated for everything that they were losing monetarily.
So that was 1998 or 1999, which is 20 years plus ago. And later on, later on, he was one of the first YouTubers having one of the top YouTube channel at the time called Hot for Words. He was the man behind it. He was the writer behind it, the producer behind it, and the editor behind it. The face of the channel was
somebody else. But anyway, so that was one of the first channels to do advertising on YouTube. So that was one of the earliest. That was probably one of the first channels to do $1 million a year in ad revenue.
Okay, you have to speak a little slower because you have to realize you're talking to a foreign public mostly.
Okay.
And mainly Greek public, but maybe also potentially Turkish public, as I see a lot of Turkish people here commenting. So that's Charles. And in the last 5 years, we've been working together on a project which basically is, I'll say it in 2 words. It's a electronic Pnix, which means basically a way to gather on an app and vote for every single bill, every single law that is being that is being voted for you in your parliaments. But instead of just having, your governments decide every 4 years, you keep the checks and balances via an app. And not only this app is connected to a TV show, which basically tracks the politicians. This is something legal in the States. You can actually film a politician. You can ask him questions, and you can even enter, I think, Capitol Hills and do that.
You can make appointments with them. You can have meetings with them. I mean, they work for the
so
people.
Basically, that's a way to track politicians and see if what they said, if what they promised you is being done, and if not, then you have your weapon, which is basically your phone, and the number of votes. Because if you get a lot of people, voting something for something or against something, and then you show it to a politician, then you can have an impact and basically put pressure on the politicians and try to control them. I mean, not control them, but...
you should control them.
Yeah, you should control them, which I think should be also applied to journalists nowadays, but this is another topic. So this we've been working...
Well, journalism has gone down the tubes.
We'll talk about later. We'll talk about that later.
Let's talk about now. Let's just get into it.
No, I'm actually leading here the debate, so please bear
debate.
with me.
Oh, is this a debate?
It is a debate.
Uh-oh.
So
does that mean?
So basically, the underground network, which started with musicians and artists, now has evolved into this platform, which basically, Charles and I have this thing in common that we want to change the world. We want to empower the people. I hate that word now because it's used in such a bad way, but we think the people have the power anyway. So just even in numbers. So, but the people can be a chaotic mass, not knowing what is good for them, and actually sometimes do and vote for things that are against them. So the best way for people to be able to have a real voice and have a thinking voice is to educate them. And of course, this is not up to us, but it's to each and every one of us to educate itself, and then make informed decisions and good decisions. And so that's a very long process, and it's an ongoing process for humanity, but that is the underground network today. So anyway,
it hasn't launched yet. We haven't officially launched yet.
Yeah, we haven't launched. We've been trying a few things, and our problem has always been that whoever has been involved in terms of, monetary support has to have zero conflict of interest, has to have a lot of money not a lot, but like a substantial amount of money to back this project, but has to have zero conflict of interest. So whenever we had someone back the project, and then we've discovered that somehow he's tightly or loosely related to any type of conflicts of interest, we have had to back off and just wait for another opportunity or change our business model. But we have had some amazing angel investors, and so we have been able to put a lot of it together. It's just have not been out there yet. So, and we're waiting for the right time. And every day is the right time. So Charles, I'm going to start off by asking you what is going on in America. And, first things first, you're American. How do you feel so far after almost 6 months of, not 6, but 5.5 months, 5 months of Biden administration? How are things looking for America and for the world? I think this is a very legitimate question to start with.
Yeah, I like the way you said it. This is very legitimate. That's almost loaded right there. So, yeah. So how is Biden doing so far? I mean, the problem is Biden thinks that he's going to be able to cooperate with in the United States, we have two parties. And they're like equally split. So a two-party system means that when one party is in office, the other party wants to destroy everything that other party does, which might also mean destroying the very country that they're a part of, because they want to get themselves back in power. So there's an election every 2 years where it determines who's sort of controlling the government, and that is the election of the members of the House and the members of the Senate, and then you also have a presidential election every 4 years. So Biden got elected, and he thought, oh, wow, I'm going to be able to work with the Republicans. He's a Democrat, and the Republicans are the other party. So he thought, hey, I'm going to be able to work with them, and we're going to come up with some great stuff. Well, the Republicans keep showing that they do not want to work with Biden. So there are things that Biden can do to possibly not work with the Republicans and maybe actually do some pretty substantial things. But he hasn't done those things yet. And there's also one Democrat that's holding out, who is pretty much a Republican, who doesn't want Biden to do anything progressive. Progressive means like, help students pay back their student loans. Maybe just cancel those student loans. In Europe, you got free education. In the United States, we
have
don't.
had so far, but in Europe, things are changing, and we're about.
Well, they're trying to Americanize what's going on in Europe, so don't let that happen. But anyway, so Biden hasn't. So he's cut a few stimulus checks to help people out, but so far he hasn't really done anything. And if he doesn't do anything in the next, if he doesn't do anything in one more year, then the Republicans will probably get back control of the House and the Senate, or get back control of the Senate. And if they do that, then Biden's not going to be able to do anything
for another 2 years.
For another 2 years after that, and then Trump is going to walk right back into office.
Is this official that Trump is going to run again?
Of course.
Because he's disappeared. So
no, he hasn't. He's out there running around doing stuff.
Oh, okay.
He's fixing his plane right now.
Okay.
And he's like, he's got all the Republicans kissing his ass. Like he's like the almighty.
But this bipartisan, so you've been talking about America so far, but this bipartisan like system, how do you think it's working? Has it ever worked? Maybe in the past?
Yeah. They actually used to be able to cooperate and do things together. So basically, here's the situation. You have the Democrats who want to do things that are sort of good for social, like to help out single mothers, education, like, help the least fortunate people out with things like social, welfare and stuff like that to make sure that people aren't starving. And then you have the Republicans who believe kind of in this sort of laissez-faire idea that small government is better than maybe even like no government. They don't want government getting involved in anything. The Democrats...
Well, no, they do. They want the government involved with
stuff that benefits them.
They want the government involved with the money people. It's what they call socialism for the government, right?
Yeah. So they want the government to bail out their banks and their corporations whenever they run into trouble.
You're talking about Republican now or Democrat?
Republicans. They want.
Okay, I'm a little confused because you know that over the last years, this has been applying to Democrats as well.
Of course.
Because I don't
want... So basically, so the problem with American politics...
I don't want anyone thinking that, I don't want anyone thinking because we are actually an absolute bipartisan, nonpartisan,
Yeah, so both parties have been heavily influenced by money. So the problem with the United States elections and the government is that it costs about $10 million for each member of Congress to get reelected. Now, members of Congress are members of the Senate and members of the House. The United States has a thing where the president is the president, but he can't do things. Well, he can do some things on his own, but most of the things that he wants to do, he has to get the House and usually the Senate. Usually the Senate and usually the House. He usually has to get both of them to agree to the things that he wants to do. So it's called checks and balances. So we put this system in place so that your president doesn't become like a dictator. And it's supposed to protect the democracy. The problem is it's sort of gotten to the point now where, whoever's in, like, whatever party's in power, the other party tries to destroy that party to not let them get away with anything. No, but actually the thing that's really destroyed everything is money. $10 million. It takes $10 million to get elected. That means you need like oil companies to give you money so that you get elected. And then once they give you money, you then do things to help them out. So banks give you money, Wall Street gives you money, oil companies give you money, and everyone is guilty of taking that money, Democrats as well as Republicans, because if you don't take that money, it's very likely you just won't get elected.
So what's the solution to that?
Well, the solution would be some way of limiting the amount of money that people can actually take. But the Supreme Court ruled that money can be like unlimited. The Supreme Court ruled that money does not, just the fact that somebody gives a politician a lot of money and that politician turns around and passes laws that benefit that person, they said, oh, that's not bribery. They said that has nothing to do with, it doesn't influence the politicians like at all.
Well, that's not a conflict of interest.
Oh yeah, but the Supreme Court ruled, oh, there are no examples of money corrupting politics. What are you talking about? So.
Wow. So, okay, that's okay. So now what do you think, and I have a few questions coming in, what do you think about America and the world? So we've seen during Trump era, there was a change in the way American politics were led in the sense that, there was some kind of, there were no wars going on, and that's a practical thing.
When was that?
During Trump
era? There weren't?
There weren't any wars?
He threw some missiles on Assad.
Okay. Yes, he did, or he was forced
over
to do.
chocolate cake.
But that was extremely minor compared to, Obama era with a lot of wars going on. I think Obama has a record of initiating wars worldwide during his time. At the same time, during Trump era, to be fair, that was the highest selling of American weapons to other countries. So one would argue, yes, Trump didn't start any war, but he sold so many guns, so many whatever, that he probably, there was some sort of like long-term war project going on besides the surface. That besides the surface to me is what really rules America. And my favorite quote is Obama saying he thought he was going to go, into a bus and drive the bus while ruling. And meanwhile, he went on a train and the train was on tracks. And the train was just going.
Yeah, so Obama didn't stick to any of his, he really did not stick to many of his things that he pledged to do when he got elected. He said that whistleblowers need to be protected. Meanwhile, he went after whistleblowers more so than any other president, like Julian Assange, and like Edward Snowden, Assange, and those guys. He said that he was going to shut down Guantanamo Bay. He didn't do it.
Is it still open? I think.
Yeah, it's still open. Yeah.
Guantanamo.
And then a lot of things. So it's almost it seems like if you get elected president, you have all these ideas. And it seems like it's almost like you feel like the minute you get elected president, they take you into a back room. They probably shut the door and they go, okay, so here's all the things that we know about you. Here you are when you were in high school smoking weed in the backyard. We have video of that. Here's you doing something bad or whatever. Who knows? I don't know. And then, by the way, so all those ideas that you had about doing things that are good, sorry, that's just not going to happen. So we just need you to just kind of be there and
do what we say.
And we're going to just kind of keep this thing rolling along, So, and then people try to refer to that as, of course, Trump came up with a concept of deep state or whatever. He just sort of played into that. People think that's like deep state, running everything.
So, I'm gonna, okay. So yeah, but you didn't, sorry.
What did you ask me?
I was asking you about the shift now. So now there's Biden and there's an obvious change in foreign policy.
Are there wars going on right now?
Uh-huh.
What?
Let me tell you.
Okay.
Well, there's a new front, which is basically, Ukraine, Russia, and all that side over there, and then there's obviously the Middle East. Not so much Iraq, but more around the Israel-Palestinian conflict. Which Greece is very close to, by the way, and then the Greek-Turkish tensions, which of course include Cyprus. And North Africa, basically, and basically everything that surrounds Greece is a real hot spot right now, and a lot of movement is happening over there. And I know you're not following this on a day-to-day basis, but because I'm from there, I pretty much follow everything. And there is definitely a huge a new narrative. New Cold Era type of Cold War, yeah, narrative going on and re-emerging. Not that it wasn't there; it was always there, even under Trump, and even before Trump, because you know how Trump was accused of collaborating with Russians and all those kind of things. So there was that need for the enemy, which sort of like countries used to unite their people, but now I think the change, if you ask me, you didn't ask me, I asked you, but apparently I have the answer, so let me talk about this. So it looks like there's this that we have found we can recreate that good old embellished, renovated boogeyman and create a new Cold War era, of course, with Russia, but also now China entering that whole world stage as far as enemy. And the very, very difficult geopolitical state right now. I mean, the area right now is the entire, southeastern Mediterranean, as well as, North Ukraine and Black Sea region, and Russia and NATO kind of surrounding Russia. So this is what's going on, and this is very scary. And a lot of things are at stake. So, but I have some questions, which, since we're around that topic, about what do you think about the way Biden handled, if you know how he handled, and if you don't, I'm going to tell you about this. I'm interviewing Charles, but talk a lot, I know. So there was the very, very recent Israeli-Palestinian outburst with a lot of dead on the Palestinian civilian side. Obviously civilian, because Palestinians don't have an army. And I was wondering, if you're aware of how Biden dealt with it. But you can talk about how people are...
I'll tell you how he dealt with it. He went public and said, Israel has the right to defend itself, which didn't sit well with the progressives. The progressives feel that the Palestinians are an occupied territory. I mean, yes, if you look at historic...
When you say progressives, you mean progressive within the Democratic Party, but as well as Bernie Sanders, right? Like all that.
I'm talking about, progressively minded people tend to be on the Democratic side, but not all Democrats are progressive either. Like, Hillary Clinton was not progressive. Bill probably was, but Bill probably wasn't even running the show when he was president. Progressives, people, when you look at the situation, you look at Israel, which gets a lot of money from the United States, and we've just been bombing the hell out of, I guess they've been bombing the heck out of Palestine. And I guess Hamas in Palestine launched missiles against Israel. So, the problem is if there's no way to win with the Israel-Palestine thing right now, because what's happening is people are trying to stand up for the Palestinians, and I'm talking about major people like in Hollywood, like the president himself. He goes and says, "Oh, well, Israel has the right to defend themselves," but meanwhile he pissed off 50% of the population. They're like, "No, well, what about Palestine?" And then a bunch of famous actors like Mark Ruffalo, who you like. Who you've liked in the past or whatever, and a bunch of these others have stood up for Palestine, but then like a day or two later, they're like apologizing profusely for standing up for Palestine, because now Israel is using the argument that if you criticize the Israeli government, that means you're anti-Semitic. That means you hate all Jews, which is actually not the case. But Israel's done a very good job of conflating. The word is conflating, where you basically make two things mean the same thing. They've conflated the two, where if you're critical of the Israeli government, that means you are anti-Semitic. Now, people have been using the criticism of Israel to be anti-Semitic. It's the same thing about when Trump started calling the flu the China flu, and then that got people all pissed off at Chinese people and started, beating them up or something. So, but we have to be super careful with this stuff. You have to be allowed to be critical of your government, because if you can't be critical of your government, if for example, we elected a Jewish president, and that Jewish president, just like theoretically, hypothetically, imagine if we elected a Jewish president, and then maybe he put some Jewish people on his on the, in the Senate and the House or whatever, or they got elected. So now we have a primarily Jewish government that's in power. Imagine if they then pass some law, which we thought was bad, I don't know, giving, trillions of dollars to oil companies or something. And we said, oh my God, that's not good. You shouldn't give trillions of dollars to oil companies. And then they turned around and said, oh my God, the only reason why you're attacking us is because we're Jewish. That's in effect kind of like what's happening with Israel. So it's kind of a no-win situation.
But let me make that remark that the fact that John Fitzgerald Kennedy was a Catholic president was news. I mean, not news, but was noted in my school history book that it was the first Catholic president of the United States, which I didn't understand at the time, but that's to tell you, America has a very strict policy of letting specific people become presidents, and I think they would not allow so easily somebody who is non.
Was it Protestant?
Yeah, probably Protestant.
So you most presidents were Protestant up to that point?
I think all of them.
Okay.
All of them, and I think they have been ever since.
Even though we have this thing called separation of church and state, believe it, we're supposed to.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, there's always an underlying tradition in American politics. So I just said that because I mean, you gave an example which I think would not happen. I mean, that doesn't mean that the president really rules anyway, but they need that figure to have specific characteristics, and that's what they did. Okay, because the question came, and how did Biden, I mean, I saw like a shift, I have to say. Apparently, it's the first time that the social media played an extremely important role in what happened in the latest, massacre. I mean, well, I should say whatever conflict massacre of civilians over between Israel and Palestine. And the shift is. There has been, because of the Palestinian diaspora and the power of social media, just even even on Instagram, you have these two major top models who are Palestinians, and they were very vocal about it. This is probably the first time Instagram is becoming so political at the level of top models. The Hadid sister, Bella and Gigi Hadid, and they have millions of followers. The two of them together have like 100 million followers, but that's not the only thing, obviously. So social media, young people, even third generation Palestinian, all of a sudden had a way of putting pressure, international pressure. So for the first time, let's say the mainstream media narrative sort of was pressured by that counter narrative of the young social media activists coming pro-Palestinian or Palestinians themselves. Secondly, it seems that in the last few years, Israel has made some moves where it did some like personal collaborations outside of the United States, kind of like sacred deal, some maybe with like China or even Russia on the side, I think regarding weapons, and America was not very happy about that. So I think Biden's tone toward that changed a little bit. So it's the first time we see like a slight what do you call that, diversion of the absolute backing of right wing, because we have to say that.
So I think
Israelis and today's Israel is not something I don't confuse.
I think the problem was Benjamin Netanyahu. I think he's the problem.
I mean, he's like a very extreme.
He's like a Republican.
He's not only a Republican.
Well, I'm just saying, if he was in the United States,
this is insulting to like your average Republican American person. If you ask me, Netanyahu seems
now I'm sorry, right wing.
Extreme right wing. I mean, he's applying an apartheid state. Like, he doesn't give equal rights to Arab citizens who are not Jewish, like they have a different status and all those kind of things. Anyway, but that is for me the biggest difference, and I see a differentiation in terms of Biden. Of course, America is not going to change overnight and going to become, pro.
What was that text you just got?
I don't know. I'll check it later.
No, check it out. Maybe it's something important.
No, I know. No, it's fine. So this is my take on this. Then somebody else is asking. Someone is very disappointed with Biden. Then there's another guy coming in. Actually, I take this as a compliment. This guy has been trolling me forever. I've actually been featuring him on my stories because he's like the perfect troll. He's bashing on us, saying, he's saying, "Excuse me, have you ever noticed any?"
What?
I have the
notice what?
I have the tradition of featuring him, so I'm going to feature him one more time. It's the famous, for some of you, Lefterakis. "Excuse me, have you ever noticed any democracy working without banks? Secondly, how do you have adopted an opinion about banks without studying financing?"
Hold on a second.
You're talking to a finance person here, Mr. Lefteraki, but you probably missed the beginning of this show. "I suggest keeping your audience by your discipline, staff," whatever the English, let's forget about this, "and invite experts for each topics." Let me tell you, sir, we don't like experts.
No, experts are fine. As long as they're the right experts. No, there are people that claim to be experts, and there are people that are the right experts. Right now, as far as money is concerned, the majority of the population has absolutely no idea how money works. Even people like, even the heads of the Federal Reserve. Well, the people that run the Federal Reserve, et cetera, they actually do understand how money works. The problem is the average person does not understand, and a lot of economists don't understand. And so, yes, without you probably can't have a democracy without banks, but you also have to understand where the money comes from. The money does not, whenever a country spends money, whenever a country spends money, the money does not come from the people. The money does not come from even, like, you don't borrow the money from the banks either. Like, that's a complete misnomer. What it is the government creates the money. It then spends the money, puts it into the economy. We then earn that money. We use that money to pay our rent, to pay for food, et cetera. And then the government will tax back some of that money later on to control things. No. You don't balance. You don't even to balance the economy per se, but you don't tax back everything you spend.
But let's not go into money today.
Okay.
I just want to say that because that's another show in and of itself. I just want to say that, people have been tired of experts. It's also another word for what they mean today by experts is, technocratic rule. And
what they mean by experts is just shut up. We've got somebody here who's an expert. Meanwhile, we've all seen like what experts there are out there, even during this whole pandemic. Like, people were saying one thing on 1 week and then...
Please speak slowly so I can keep up.
Oh, sorry. So we saw what happens with these supposed experts that are out there. They say one thing 1 week, and then the next week they completely contradict themselves. So, there really aren't as many people that are experts that claim to be experts, I think.
Okay, so now I'm gonna completely jump because we're gonna wrap up this in like an hour or so.
We were just trying this thing out, by the way.
Yeah,
this is not really meant to be any kind of a...
Oh yeah, it's fine. It's fine. A lot of people are watching, so we want to keep going. But I want to ask about Greece, and I want to ask about the European Union coming from you, because you're American, but you have this very... you've got...
Well, I lived in Europe.
You've lived in Europe, and you've also lived in Greece, and you've lived in another Greece back in the late 70s, early 80s.
And I lived in Poland under Soviet rule.
He lived as a child for a few years in Poland under Soviet rules. So you have extensive knowledge about Greece, and I mean, which you owe to me.
Yes.
No, not only. I've only given you some leads, but you never trust me, to be honest and to be truthful, and that's good because you always go and look for yourself. But usually you
so
always
they don't trust you.
You come around and you always agree with me.
I like to debate, but you don't like to debate.
Okay,
you get very upset.
Let's be cordial. So what do you think? So Greece, let me tell you a few pointers here. Greece has now a record debt, which is, and I'll tell you why it's important. It's at 225% of its GDP, and that would probably, it's second after Japan. It's probably going to surpass Japan. The difference being Japan
has its own
currency and what's called internal debt.
It doesn't even. It's not even debt. The government owes itself money.
Let me go by the terminology people use. Okay, it's just called debt. So let's call it debt. It means that it can borrow from its own people, or just
it borrows from itself,
or just recreate.
It doesn't even borrow from.
Okay, whatever. That's what I mean by internal debt. I'm just using the
all right. So what are you gonna say? Where's this going?
The liberal jargon here.
Where's this going?
This is going to Greece is second after Japan. The difference being Greece
doesn't have its own currency
and has extremely limited, if not almost zero.
Greece is under occupation.
Oh my God. Even I don't say this. Really?
Yeah, of course.
You feel Greece is under occupation?
Of course. The EU owns Greece, and they're doing whatever they want. They're just taking whatever assets they want to get their hands on. Basically, the European Union told Greece that when Greece had 100% debt to GDP ratio, they said that you have too much debt.
Slowly.
When Greece in 2008 had 2010 had 100% debt to GDP. GDP is how much money they make every year, and debt is how much debt you have. They said that Greece had too much. Therefore, we are going to take control, and we're going to double it.
Plus,
we're going to double it.
Plus,
we're going to make you fire everyone.
Plus,
we're going to make you reduce everyone's. We need you to send your GDP to like zero very quickly, and we need you to fire everybody and cut everyone's pensions, cut everything. And, oh, by the way, we're going to take this and this and this, and we're going to take this. Oh, we're going to take the Parthenon. Oh, wait a minute. Did we overstep our bounds a little bit there? Okay, well, we'll maybe give you back the Parthenon.
We're not going to take the Parthenon, but we're going to take
control of the Parthenon.
99 years of it, but that's what.
Oh, and by the way,
that's what he means by taking the Parthenon. They actually have taken revenues from a huge number of archaeological sites, which is an insane income for a country. To give you an example, for example, like museums like Louvre in Paris, with the money that they make, with the ancient keys stolen or borrowed or given or
so the Chinese got Greece got pissed off at the EU, and China ended up getting the port of Piraeus for €1. It cost them like €1.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Oh. I remember,
they got it for €1.
I remember a mountain in northern Greece, Skouries, that was given for €1. I didn't know that the whole Piraeus port.
I mean,
even if it's given for, I just know another number, 45 million. They sold.
That was the trains, right?
The train, the whole for 40 million euros,
which cost billions.
That's the price of like a big building, which cost like. But yeah, billions. They sold it to Italy for 45 million.
They were forced to. But by the way, just so you understand that the Greeks they are occupied by this thing called the European Union. The European Union is, I'm telling you, it's not.
But how can you say that?
It's not a good thing.
You have to speak slowly. How can you say occupied when Greece is a member of the European Union?
Because they took their control. Listen, the only reason why the UK was able to get out of the European Union, and a lot of people say, oh, that's a bad thing. Well, to be honest with you, the only reason why the only reason why UK was able to get out of the European Union is because it had its own money. this whole concept of joining the European Union and then having to give up control of your money is a very, very, very bad thing. The minute countries give up their control of their money, it's one of the first things that
determines sovereignty.
Well, yeah. So when you invade a country, in fact, the definition of United Nations defined on their website, the definition of being occupied by a war or something like that. Do you remember that? They said that one of the definitions of being attacked by another country and being classified as a hostile war type situation, one of those things was that the attacking country, the country that's coming in and attacking your country, one of the first things they do is they control the money. So
that's why when the German occupiers, the Nazi occupiers, were leaving Greece and actually were leaving scorched earth, one of the things that they destroyed behind them were mints, money printers. They were destroying physically mints, and some of them were saved by I think Resistance Army or whoever saved those couple mints, and they were able to use them later on. The other thing that was destroyed, after the Greek Revolution, the first ruler of Greece, Kapodistrias, had a mint in Aegina under the governance building, Kivernio. There's a mint in the basement, and when they killed him, and then later on the Bavarians came in, one of the first thing that was destroyed was the mint. So the actual money is what you destroy first to stop the country from having sovereignty. This is a major thing. And the second one being an army, and the third one being borders or okay, so let me see. I think I saw a few questions, but
take some questions.
Well, you get some nice comments, like interesting conversation. If you have another question, we can answer it. But
hold on, both Biden and Trump don't give a crap about us. I mean.
Oh, where's that? Oh, I didn't see those comments. Where are they? Oh, it's in the chat. I was looking in the
That's
chat.
like on YouTube and stuff. There's also this here. Okay, so there's a little bit of that.
Yeah, okay. So, but I'll jump onto another topic, which would be, what is happening today. And this is worldwide. Another controversial, everything that, the mainstream media doesn't want us to talk about, and most people won't touch, is what they call controversial. Meanwhile, it's really what people are burning to know about. So when this whole pandemic started back almost a year and a half ago, I was fighting with you almost on a daily basis, because I grasped, being an old soul, and you being a very new soul, I immediately grasped the whole political thing that was coming. I grasped it. I think at first it was intuitive, and then, of course, after reading just 2 or 3 articles in the mainstream media about, once we get out of the 2 or 3 weeks of lockdown, back then, because that was initially the plan, 2 or 3 weeks of lockdown, we have to watch out. We have to see that our civil liberties are not attacked, and all those kinds. So once my first intuitive, response that was really overwhelming me crossed path with mainstream media articles, I was like, oh my God, this is not good. And I'm not saying there's no pandemic. There is.
Okay, so what you're talking about.
There is, but.
So what you're talking about.
So what do you think about this whole subject? Where do you think
we
are? Hold on, let me finish.
I was going to answer you.
Where do you think we are right now? And I'm talking about worldwide, and I can later on ask you specifically about Greece. But what do you think? Where do you think we are worldwide with this? After a year and a half, what are your conclusions about this whole pandemic? or epidemic, because now there's a lot of people stating that this, now it's like a bit like whatever. It's like, well, let's use the word pandemic to be okay with everyone.
Okay, so the thing you have to be concerned about is when governments use an emergency to take more control of the people than they normally would have if that emergency didn't happen. So the thing that you've been fighting all this time is that you've been watching the government put together things that chip away at our democratic rights. And so, yes, I would say that, yes, throughout the globe, we've seen a lot of things put into place. It's like when 9/11 happened in the United States, when they blew up the World Trade Center with those planes, we immediately saw a bunch of democratic rights that took us hundreds of years to get were just wiped out overnight.
Give me one.
What?
After 9/11, I mean, except for the traveling.
Privacy, the right to privacy, the right to I don't know, the right to probably.
The right to privacy was uncovered with Snowden.
I know, but I'm saying, but
it started.
That was 2001. So
it started after.
They immediately put into place things where they started spying on our own people. The United States government is not supposed to spy on its own people. They're supposed to spy. They're allowed to spy on foreigners. But our Constitution doesn't allow them to spy on its own people. But the minute 9/11, kicked in, they immediately said, oh, well, we need to stop all these other terrorist acts from happening. Turns out they never happened. In fact, it turns out they didn't even stop one terrorist act from happening. But anyway, so that's the danger that we're in right now. We're still, we're coming up on the, potentially on the tail end of this pandemic thing. And Katerina is concerned that we're not going to have a lot of human rights left over, or whatever, a lot of our freedoms left over after all this is said and done. I'm more of an optimistic person. I think that we will, once this thing, pans out. I don't feel like we handled it properly in almost any capacity. But we have to be super diligent to make sure that that we're not worse off as far as democracy is concerned than we were at the beginning of this thing. So, and you're probably going to have to go through very specific instances, like things that happened in Greece. I saw things that were happening here in the States.
So the question, very nice question, is: are we doomed?
No, I mean, if you want to look, there's two ways of looking at the world. You can either be optimistic or you can be pessimistic.
I know, but you can't be optimistic just like, what are you talking about? Like in terms of a new age type of optimism? Love myself, breathe, everything is good. If I don't love my inside, if I start loving myself, then I'll start to love the world. Like, where is this going to take me? What type of optimism? Optimism has to be backed by something.
Optimism means that you can do something to prevent something bad from happening.
Tell me practically what I can do now not to lose. I've already lost a lot of my rights, even a right of my child.
What is that? What are those Greek comments in there?
I will say those, but tell me give me a couple of practical things I can do. Of course, I have the answer, but I'm asking you to be optimistic. Like, how can I fight this? Like, people are asking me here practically, like, is there any hope? Are we doomed? What should we do?
Well, if you're doomed, then we're going to end up with the future that you see in all those signs.
Governments are supposed to protect us. They don't. Is there any hope?
Yes, the problem is...
Is there any hope for Greece specifically? Because it looks like, once again, Greece, is really at the epicenter, is one of the countries which is at the epicenter of these new, applied quote unquote tactics of control and oppression and suppression. So practically, can you be a little more practical?
Yes, I would say that we've been in the middle of a pandemic, epidemic, or maybe even just a thing that maybe
we've been in the middle of the thing.
No, a thing that maybe that for some reason the Spanish flu and these other H1N1 and these other ones, we didn't, force everyone to get vaccinated right away. People actually got infected, and then we developed immunity to it, and et cetera, et cetera. Here we're like, there's such a I understand that they want to get a large percent of the population vaccinated. It makes sense. You've got to do it. You've got to, if you're going to fight this thing or whatever. But you can't just be blanket and say everyone, if you've had the COVID, like we had the COVID, we have antibodies. In fact, if we were to like immediately inject ourselves with the vaccination right now, it's I shouldn't even be talking about this because now it's going to trigger stuff on. Anyway, there's a greater percentage chance that we're going to have a more severe reaction to it. In fact,
I mean, you're not saying something the very officials haven't said themselves. The other day, I was listening to a Greek official, like on the mainstream news. I don't watch Greek mainstream news, but I'm talking to my mom on FaceTime, and the TV is on, and I'm listening to this guy who's like the head of one of those guys, responsible, who's been saying all these kind of things throughout the past year, saying that, if you have had the COVID, you don't have to vaccinate for 13 months, or
I mean, okay, so
or if you've already had one shot, then you shouldn't have the second
here's
one.
the problem.
So basically, they're people. It doesn't matter like
whose
side you're on. Hold on.
I know, but what I'm saying, here's the problem.
They're just changing everything.
No, I know, because again, what they're trying to do is get people that have it. They're trying to get as many people to do it as possible, and they're afraid that if they introduce any kind of exceptions to the rule, they're afraid that people are going to be like, oh my God, wait a minute, are you saying that pregnant women shouldn't get it? Or even though they haven't tested it with pregnant women? Or are you saying, because the minute you introduce one exception, people are afraid that you're going to extrapolate that out, or at least those people that are in power are afraid you're going to extrapolate that out to people not getting vaccinated.
But do you think it's an honest
the problem we
policy, are they trying to save us from a pandemic, or are they trying I mean,
the problem is that it goes right back to the beginning of our conversation. When you have a lot of money that influences the decisions that our government makes, and you have a lot of people that are working. Listen, if you want to get an expert on something, you would go to somebody who is, probably within the industry, working in that industry, and you would think, okay, that person is an expert. The problem is if that person is also has a potential conflict of interest financially on the decisions that they're making, that's what creates people's concerns. So when you have, in the United States, we have Fauci or whatever, and some people think Fauci's making a lot of money off of this whole pandemic. I don't really know. I mean, I think if you were to look at his finances, maybe you would find out he's making no money. But I mean, the problem is
he's been in that position since 1984.
But he's also like an old guy. I mean, how much money can you really make? But anyway, the point is, I don't know. I mean, there's you would think. Nice. Okay, but what I'm saying is, it's not whether somebody's doing something bad or not. It's the potential of that person potentially making a lot of money off of decisions that are being made. So that's what creates a lot of people's concern. Plus, this is the first time in history that we've come out with a vaccination that didn't take 4 years of trials and errors and stuff like that. So I don't like the idea of grouping just because somebody might be concerned about taking a vaccination, because yes, it really has not had enough time to be properly tested to see what the long-term effects are going to be. That's a valid scientific concern, for people to have. And if you've already had the COVID, again, history has shown that if you catch something, you actually develop the antibodies for it, and the chances of you catching it again are very, very slim, if not slim to none.
I'm going to troll you 0%. Now. You're no expert in medicine, so just keep those thoughts for yourself.
Okay.
No.
Anyway.
I just wanted to say this. everybody know that this whole thing is nothing which relates, as you said, we go back to the fact that the people in power, get all this money. And
well, yeah, I mean,
let's be frank. This whole thing is nobody wants to. What they did back with the Spanish flu, back in what's called the Spanish flu, which has nothing to do with Spain, by the way. I read the whole book about this. What happened back in 1918?
It was actually like the American flu.
Exactly. It's after World War I.
We created it, or
it wasn't one of the. Well, it started.
Well, Biden just announced he wants an investigation on the source of this flu.
Well, okay, but the bottom line is what happened after the first World War, which was 1918, the Spanish flu, which started off in American military camp. That's the real place where it started, spread out to the world. They realized after that they needed to create healthcare systems throughout the world. So right now we're living the exact opposite. Not only we have had an epidemic or a pandemic, okay, and according with in their own words, we've had it, and for a fact we've had it, because we've seen like people die or almost die. Of course, there was
almost died.
Yeah, no, we didn't die, but
it was pretty rough.
It was rough, okay, but no, don't scare.
We had it at the beginning.
Don't scare.
By the way,
don't scare people because you can also have it very like a heavy flu or like a flu.
Well, we just thought it was a really bad flu because we had it before people knew what it was.
But the problem is there were no treatments available, and now we're learning that there are treatments available, but there are theoretically treatments. Doctors talk about them, but they're not endorsed by the official
narrative or whatever.
No, not narrative.
Or guidelines.
The official institutions like the CDC does not have an official treatment protocol. Everybody. So, but the whole point goes back to 1918. What happened after that is the world started realizing we need national healthcare systems, meaning we have to make sure our population is covered if something like this happens. And that's what led to the European healthcare system after this Second World War, or gradually led there. Now it's the opposite. We have a supposed or an actual pandemic, and what we're doing is we're doing nothing, and we're also destroying the national, whichever country had a national healthcare system, especially in Europe, which is very strong. The best example for me is France, and I know for a fact that it had one. What happens is they're not doing anything. They don't want to put any money in this. So is this like a privatization type of policy? Is this the extreme face of neoliberal policies? Is this the epitome of what we're facing, basically? Hello?
Yes. So you're talking about the privatization of healthcare?
No, I'm saying, was this pandemic the absolute golden opportunity, except for all the other games you have on the side, like stock markets and people enriching themselves and small and medium businesses closing down in every single country and controlling of the population and putting masks on and closing, half of the jobs and having people work from home and blah, 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 blah. Is this also destroying health care in countries is major? I mean, what does a country, what is government there for? Is for education, for health, to take care of education for its population, to take care of health, and to take care of its, well-being and protect its borders. What else is it there for? So where is that where we're at right now?
What, so you think?
Are we basically destroying what a sovereign country is by destroying and making everything like private, corporate?
Well, first of all, the privatization of stuff, that's been going on for a while anyway. So you're saying that during this pandemic things were sped up? Possibly. I don't know. I don't know the details of that. Now, small businesses going out of business, yes, a significant amount of small business, and that's a horrible thing. I think I think people have taken advantage of this pandemic and used it to further their agendas. Absolutely. Do I think it's irreversible? No, I don't think that. I think that we can get a clear picture at some point here and say, listen, these things are, some things are temporary and some things aren't. And so we're not going to know what's temporary and what's not until, a little while from now, because something may
if
seem temporary and it turns out to be long-term. So you think a lot more of these changes that have occurred are more long-term. I think that they're temporary, but that no one's going to know, until time goes by, and you'll see whether something really is temporary or whether it's more long-term.
Okay, but we shouldn't just be there and have time go by and not do.
No, something. I get it.
So we still have not come up with answers. I just want to say something. I just want to change.
I'm the optimist. She's the realist, as she would say.
I'm gonna just want to talk about one more question here. There's a lot of messages in Greek.
Eleftheria means freedom.
Talk about the Pythagorean symbols and a lot of the ancient symbolism in relation to what is going on. So I just want to talk about cancel culture. One person asked, how do you feel about cancel culture and the culture war between right-wing free speech and the left-wing woke? How this will impact entertainment business? I've already addressed this before. I'm going to answer this briefly.
I thought maybe I can answer it.
All right, you go ahead.
Yeah, why not?
Just as long as you speak slowly.
Okay, so the cancel culture, which is really tough because it seems like
it's not a nice word.
Well, it also seems like if we go back in history and we look at any historical figure who was important in history, every single person is flawed. And especially back then, like Abraham Lincoln, I think he was responsible for ending slavery, but he owned some slaves. Okay, so what are you supposed to do in that situation? Do you know what I'm saying? So I think
you have to free your slaves.
Okay, here's the thing.
What do you mean? What do you do?
Katerina, you've been talking.
You have to lead by example.
Listen. You've been talking about governments taking advantage of this pandemic and doing stuff to take away our freedoms. Okay? One of those things that they do while they're taking away our freedoms is they get us to argue about stupid stuff. Okay? In other words,
so
it's called low-hanging, I call it the low-hanging fruit. But the idea is, let's get you guys arguing about stupid stuff.
Like woke culture?
Like whatever. Even whatever. Yeah, it just, even abortion is like one of those things where they just know it gets people all yelling at each other. The right for a woman to terminate her pregnancy. They know that if we get us arguing about that, we're going to ignore the other stuff that's going on. So I think this whole woke culture thing is a massive distraction designed to get us to argue about it and not focus on other important things. Does that make sense?
Yes. Diversion from the actual things that matter. Believe it or not, I even read this regarding the recent Israeli-Palestinian war, that Israel has vaccinated, I think, all of its population, and probably things were not going that well, and that was a big diversion of the actual results.
So you're thinking that a lot of people are...
No, I just...
You're saying that a lot of people were catching the COVID after getting vaccinated, which is really interesting because we're going to fly to Greece soon, I guess, right? Are we? I don't even know.
Yeah.
And so...
Incognito.
Yeah, that's right. So we're not going to fly to Greece. We're going to fly to... I don't even know where. Oklahoma. But yeah, anyway.
You have a lot of praising comments. Thank you guys for your comments. I'm not gonna tell him out loud because I don't want to praise him. They also made a comment about the type of.
Well, also as far as the entertainment industry and the woke culture, let me tell you something.
It's an absolute limiting.
Here's the problem.
Freedom of speech.
No, but
every day.
All right, stop.
Every day, Charles.
No, here's the problem.
Every day, Charles is limiting my
everything.
my freedom of speech. I'm trying to say something. It's like, oh no, you can't.
No.
Say
here's
that.
the thing.
If you say that, then you're gonna they're gonna like put
here's
pressure
the thing.
on you, and you're gonna have to apologize. And I just refuse.
Here's the thing. If you go after a comedian for making a joke, like we live in LA, I would go see like Sarah Silverman she'd go stand up at a comedy store and try out some humor. Oops, I'm getting messages here. Hold on 1 second. We're just wrapping up a live thing. I'll get right back to you. So I would see her trying humor out.
Sarah Silverman.
Sarah Silverman's a big comic in the United States. She's hilarious.
She's very funny.
She's very funny. But I would see her
stand-up comedian
years ago. She would get up.
Female one, which is very rare for women to do.
She's female. She's Israeli. Listen, she spoke about the Israeli thing too yesterday.
She's not Israeli. She's Jewish.
Or Jewish. I'm sorry. She's not Israeli. She talked about that too. She's not a fan of Netanyahu. And she feels that the Palestinians have a right and whatever. It's like a real tough, anyway. So the point is everything's driven by money. So if you make it that comedy can no longer be funny, and comedy doesn't have to be racist. It doesn't have to be, but the point about comedy is it's supposed to kind of catch you off guard, and it's supposed to maybe shock you for a second.
You have to answer this.
No, I will call them right back. And it's supposed to shock you. I think what's going to happen is if you try to water down comedy too much, where it's boring, no one's going to be able to make any money anymore. So even this
no one's going to watch you.
Even this cancel culture, woke thing, blah, 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 blah. I think at some point it's going to people are going to get tired of it. And I think hopefully we're going to go back to a little bit more, sanity and happiness and stop trying to divide everybody. I think the cancel thing and the woke thing and all that kind of stuff, I think it's a way for us to be distracted and a way for us to be divided. I think...
you don't agree to it, and I don't either.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you're getting all those hearts. Oh, thank you. Thank you for all your great comments. Everyone who has a lot of people really enjoying our conversation. All right, I think
no, keep going. Just talk.
Well, that's okay. This is a work thing because Charles is still working a lot, but he takes breaks off of the actual work that is running right now to come here and debate me. So today I was going to have a very interesting guest, which had canceled on me last minute. But in the next couple weeks, until I leave and make a break, I'm announcing it today. I'm going to have a very interesting... first of all, I'm going to have my first Turkish co-star to debate things about Greece, Turkey. He doesn't live in Turkey anymore. It's a very interesting story. So he will be my guest in one of the. It's actually in one of this next interviews, and the other guy, the initial interview, which was going to happen today, was a young man who lives in the States, is 20 years old, and is a Palestinian, and he grew up in Gaza. So he's an activist. He writes incredible rap songs with political content, but he's an incredibly open-minded young man. I think being 20 years old and having that type of open-minded, like I've seen him.
He's 20?
He's 20. I've seen him debate an Israeli activist, and it's one of the best discussions I've ever seen. So I wanted to have the Palestinian side and then potentially an Israeli young guy to
Shmir? Shmur?
What's Shmur?
I don't know. There's some guy in New York. I think his name is, I don't know. Shmur.
No. I'll find.
He's the one who took out the ad that he was attacking Dua Lipa.
No. I'm only.
No, I'm just saying.
I'm only talking to people on both sides who are actual.
How about young people?
Yeah, they're very young people.
Because I think you might find that young people.
Let me see if there's any other question. If not, we're gonna wrap it up. And thank you for the love. Thank you for the hearts.
That interview is next week.
One of the. So I don't know in which order, but I will definitely have my co-star probably even next week, or the week after. So it's going to be either or. Then a lot of you have asked me to have my first guest again, which I'm more than willing to have. I just don't want to, burden people too much with, a lot of medical information, even though I think we all need it. But there's a lot of it out there. So, so I will do it. But I think it's nice to take a little break sometimes from it. And then, so that's it. Thank you guys for joining. If you have another question in the next few seconds.
Look, I can get I didn't realize I can get all the Instagram comments here.
Okay. Oh, and some people are watching from Turkey. I mean, I wanted to say to my Turkish friends, the debate I saw between this Palestinian and Israeli guy who actually both grew up locally was one of the most interesting thing I've ever seen. And I think this would be very interesting to do between an legitimately open-minded, educated Greek person and a legitimately educated Turkish person, or even, those two sides, or even same thing, with Cypriots from all sides, to be able to discuss civilly, because we have we may have incredible gaps and differences, but it's so nice to be able to talk and try and see each other's perspective, and also refer to refer to tools that we have. That's why you need to be even I don't think I have the level of doing it. And when I say even if, and I'm putting myself in there because of my experience of living in Turkey, but even I lack all the tools that would be needed. So when I listened to this Palestinian-Israeli debate of those two young people, and they're in their 20s, I was like, oh my God, they know international law, they know all the historic events, they know, things that I would lack to enter into such a debate. But I still think, ideally we would have to start having conversations, even if it's to completely disagree. I think that this would be ideal also for people to learn, and for people to learn about even if it's for their own sake or their own history. And also the other thing is, if you do that, then you're able to, why are you smiling?
I'm just reading the comments. It's so funny.
What are they?
It's great, because I didn't realize we can go back and look at the Instagram comments.
Oh, yeah. You're laughing because it's a lot of good things about you, huh?
No. So that one person was saying, so the debt to GDP in Greece is 240%, as you said, I guess, that including private debt.
No, 220. No.
He's including private debt, which is not really. No,
that's not. Private debt is
not the same as government debt.
Through the roof.
Yeah, private debt's way.
I'm only talking about public debt is not.
And also, by the way,
240.
By the way,
228 is Greek to GDP.
Okay, but by the
228%.
It doesn't really matter.
Is the Greek
it doesn't really matter. Debt to GDP means nothing. It's a completely bogus number. It never has meant anything. So, and especially when your GDP goes down like it did during this pandemic, that means your debt to GDP is going to go up. It means nothing. All right. So, but we're going to have that conversation at some point in the near future. The problem is, countries need to be in a position where they're able to actually even cancel some of that debt. What people don't understand is that when banks create loans, they create the money from nothing. And then when the loan is paid back, the money no longer exists. So when a bank creates $1 million loan and you pay back that $1 million, the $1 million goes to zero.
Okay, we'll do
and
then
the interest comes out.
Time.
Anyway, but the point is, Greece should be allowed to just cancel a lot of that debt. And the only way they'd be able,
all of it.
Yeah, the only way they'd be able to do it is if they had their own currency. Or actually, the European Union could actually cancel it themselves. A lot of times when the government buys back bonds, like what's that called? Whatever. The government buys back bonds, in a way, they're sort of canceling debt there as well. They're just literally like erasing it. But anyway, we'll get into that's a whole other discussion that we'll have.
We can do like a whole thing just on the money and financial things, which you're an expert, so my troll will be happy about that.
Yeah. Not that I'm an expert, but whatever.
So anyway, I had something to say, but
I nicely distracted you. See,
you did.
That's good. That's good. I got her focused on the wrong thing.
Thank you everyone for watching. I mean, quite a lot of attendees for an English interviews. I'm actually flabbergasted. Flabbergasted? Did I say correctly?
Flabbergasted, not geisted.
Flabbergasted.
Flabbergasted would be like the
German,
ghost of the
like
ghost
a German
of
version of flabbergasted.
It's okay. like a ghost, the ghost of Flabber.
Oh, well, there's one more. Not kind of question, but comment. Why
are people moving to Texas?
Yeah, people are moving to Texas because Republican states have open states. Basically,
no. Listen, all right, stop for a second.
No masks at schools.
Okay, no, listen. All right. Stop. Stop. Let me just explain it. Let me explain it. First of all, they're not really moving to Texas.
They are.
People in California are moving to a place called Austin, Texas.
That's
Austin,
true.
Texas is a very liberal town. It's like California, but in the middle of Texas.
Without lockdowns. Texas
is a Republican state, and they have no taxes, zero taxes, right? Do they have zero taxes, I believe. Yes. I think they have zero taxes.
Very low, but
no. I think they have zero state taxes.
But they have no lockdowns.
Whatever. So during the pandemic,
just a detail.
During the pandemic, people got upset that there was a car company that got upset that all of the car companies in Detroit were allowed to continue to operate, but the car companies in the United States were not. Even though this car company also had a factory in China during the middle of the pandemic, and there were no examples of people dying at that factory, even though they kept it open. So anyway, a lot of people got upset in California with the lockdown, and they moved to Texas. But they didn't move to like the heart of Texas. They moved to a place called, what was it again?
Austin,
Texas,
is that my brother who wrote Good Vibes?
Which is like...
that's my brother.
Is that your brother? Is it him? Is that his picture?
Yeah, that was me. That was me. That was my brother.
That's funny. Anyway, so they moved to a part of Texas which is actually very liberal. It's Austin, Texas, which is like being in California but in the middle of Texas and not paying any tax. In California, we pay like 10, 11, 12 % tax on your income, plus you pay the government another 20, 30, 40%. So it's very expensive to live in California.
It's very expensive. It's just we basically live to survive.
Yes,
that is the truth.
And you're literally a poverty. If you make a couple $100,000 a year in California, you're just
above poverty.
Right about. You're literally, if you miss one paycheck, you're probably living in the street because the rents are so high here too. So anyway.
So, all right, time to wrap it up. Thank you everyone for commenting, for watching. I'm glad you were able to follow, even though I know Charles speaks very fast sometimes.
I will speak slower next time.
If you have any suggestions, I see like you're very popular among my friends. No, you are. That's true.
Because I'm a dissenting voice.
No, you're
not.
No,
I'm not. It really
You're
is.
actually a very mainstream voice.
I'm not. That was an insult, by the way, that she just gave me. If you guys did not catch that, I try to be a little bit more optimistic about the future, meaning that there are things that we can do as the public, and you have to give people optimism because otherwise they will not do anything. In other words, if you tell people that there's nothing you can do, that government is like out of control and they control everything and there's absolutely nothing you can do, if you tell people that, then they won't do anything.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying people can do everything. But
no, not saying they can do everything. I'm just saying, but you have to make them feel like if enough people get together and do something, that they might actually be able to influence their government.
Okay, thanks everyone for watching. We will see you next time. And I wanted to say, if you have any suggestion regarding topics that you would like Charles to address, he's actually pretty good at many different topics. Technology, be it technology, money, he knows how money works. He can give you pointers. There's a very big movement, worldwide movement, which is basically almost, it goes back to Aristotle. Like, nobody has invented that, but they've given it a new name, which talks about, this whole how money works and why, they've created this whole thing, quote unquote, debt. He doesn't like the word, and he's right about it. But this is what the jargon uses words to what do you call it, to manipulate our minds. So
the government debt is equal.
No, we're going to make a whole show.
The government debt is equal. If you have
any other suggestions about other topics that you want to talk about, leave it in the comments or write me in DMs. And Charles,
go to catmoots.com and you can leave a voice message. Oh, did I set that up?
Oh yeah, by the way, you can leave voice messages. And
I think if you go to wait a minute, is that right?
And I also have the ability, we tried it yesterday, to broadcast with footage. So if I want to show, let's say, a video,
is it catmoots.com?
I can be able to broadcast.
Can you leave like a voicemail?
I think that's
what, yeah. Go to catmoots.com and you can leave a voicemail, and then she can actually respond to that.
Yes.
Catmoots, KATMOUTS.com.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So good night.
Is there a way that I can overlay that on the thing?
Good night, everyone. Thank you for watching. Somebody said that you're like the twin of George Clooney. Thank you, Olga, for your kind words.
Let me see if I can put catmoots.com on there.
That's okay. You don't have to. Everybody knows.
How do you do overlays?
I go by Catmoots. Keep it up. We'll see you probably next week through here, but I'll probably do like a personal live on my Instagram.
Boom.
Oh, wow.
Catmoots.com.
So yeah, I'll probably do another Instagram alone live on by myself in Greek. Keep it up and see you next time.
Alrighty. Let me stop this thing.
1 hour 30.
Boom. Let me stop this. Oh, maybe I go